Fantastic. Okay, so first of all, when you first have access to OneFile, you should be emailed. That email will have your username, which is just given to us essentially by the software system OneFile, and then it auto generates a strange password that nobody ever be able to remember unless they write it down, and it then prompts you to enter that detail into the system and then start by putting a more memorable password in, so changing that. Okay, great. So if we just go to the URL, just so go to Google and type in OneFile, it'll give us this ePortfolio login. Now mine will go straight to this page, which has got all of my different accounts on that I use, but otherwise, if we can find a different way of going to that, so it doesn't follow my cookies, you'll get to this. So they're very proud. It's actually probably the most commonly used ePortfolio system for apprenticeships at the moment. So that's quite a good one. It's something that they keep developing and updating, and in fact there was a couple of updates recently where the whole kind of landing page has changed. So if you go to this and just click in login, you'll get to a login page. It won't necessarily look the same as this, but you'll clearly see just two fields, one for password or username, so those two, and then you can click in from there. So I've had our organisation set me up as a line manager, so I don't actually use the system as a line manager, but I'm going to click in as if for the first time here, hopefully. So once you do get access, it'll ask you to change your password to make sure that it's something that you can remember. If you don't manage to do that, or if you put a password into the system that you forget later on, then just let us know and we can reset it for you and send you another email with a different password to put in, and so you can change it again. Just to let you know, there isn't a 90-day password automated kind of change process, so that you have to keep thinking of a new one. So it will stay with you, that password, for the life that you're using this for. So for the life of the apprenticeship with you. So you don't need to keep changing it. So as long as it's a memorable one for you, you shouldn't have any problems. Once you get to the main portfolio kind of page, it will take you through some very basic instructions on what's going on. They call these three lines over here the burger menu, or the hamburger menu, and you can click on that to expand it, and you can see different fields. Depending on the role that you have on OneFile, you can see more or fewer fields essentially. So I'll click next to that. You can view messages. So if I've emailed you through the system directly, which I don't tend to do, I tend to email, or our staff tend to email managers directly rather than through the system, but it might be that we want to put you into some feedback. So occasionally you might get an email through to your account from OneFile. So just be aware that if there are emails coming in from OneFile, they're not landing in your junk or somewhere else where you can't find them. So you might have to set up a little rule on OneFile. It's fairly straightforward, but just look out for them, because that might start to happen. There's also tasks next to that. So usually when you've got something that OneFile wants you to do, it will put that into your tasks, and it will be a red icon with that number. At this moment it's 0, but obviously as the tasks grow, you can have lots and lots in there. So if you do happen to go on and you see the tasks already, if you click onto it, it will tell you exactly what it wants you to do with a little hyperlink, so you can go straight to that page. And for you, the vast majority of times, if you have a task, it's for you to go in and review a monthly review or a quarterly review and add your comments to it. So that would be the reason that it's asking you to do that. So you shouldn't have that many, to be fair. So next, this is where you can put your information. Now this is probably the most important starting point for you once you first get onto the system. This is where you're going to have to validate your email account. So it won't start emailing you with all these prompts until you've validated your profile. So if I click on that and go straight to what it wanted me to do and click onto my profile, then I can put a telephone number in, obviously a work one. We've probably got the ability to find you on the phone if we wanted to, so you don't necessarily have to fill that in. There's some other information in here which obviously isn't mandatory. It's absolutely fine if you don't want to fill that in. Asks for CVs. Clearly you don't need to do that. But what you do need to go to is email preferences. So here we can see that my email has been set up already. It's already been validated by me because I'm already on the system, so it knows that email account. But for you, it won't. So it will say, this is the email account we've been given. That will be put in by somebody at CSR. If you want to change it, you can. And you can change that, but you need to verify it. So verification, I'm sure you've all experienced this before from websites. You'll go into your email account when you press verify now, and it will have sent you a little link just to click on and just confirm the email address. And from there on, it will know that that's a valid email address where it can find you, and it will pass those messages on as they come in for you on OneFile. So that's really it in terms of setup. It's fairly straightforward. Navigation around, you go back to the home tab here at the top, or the link there on the home, and we can start to use the system. So if I look at CSR teaching, if I look at Danny here, say Danny was one of my learners, I can see that currently Danny is at 44% for this particular qualification that he's going through. Now, from a GDPR perspective, this is one of my co-directors, so he's fine with me showing you this information. So that's Danny. It says in here that he should be 84% along with his portfolio, but he's currently sitting at 44. So there would be reason for concern with this individual. As it is, I understand the reasoning behind this. This is a training course he's doing internally with us, and we're using OneFile as the way for evidence to be uploaded in the same way that your own staff are. So what does all this screen kind of mean? So there's an idea there. If he was doing several other different parts to this qualification, if there was a competency log associated with his apprenticeship standard, it would show there underneath, and we could have 3 or 4 different qualifications all in that section, and they would all have their own progress against target. So although he might be behind in one, he might be ahead in others, and so you can kind of get a feel for how well they're doing. If somebody's dramatically different in terms of percentage, for us at CSR, if they fall 10-12% below where they should be, then there's usually a plan that we start to put in place. There's conversations that we'll have, certainly with the learner, we'd expect the tutor to have, and if that continues for a month or for 2 months, then it's a conversation perhaps with the line manager, the HR team, or the employer, and potentially a letter, actual physical letter that drops in at the apprentice's home address, and also a copy of which goes to the line manager and the HR team if we need to do that kind of thing, and also a plan of what we're going to do. So you can have a look at what your apprentice is currently working on or has been set by their tutor or their vocational skills coach. So in the teaching, learning and assessment plans button here with the light bulb, these are things that we would like that individual to do that they haven't yet accepted, for it to go into a different folder where they're working on it. So the idea behind having 2 folders, one with work set and one with work in progress, is that the learner has to review what's being set for them and agree that they will do it in the time frame. So if we click on this for Danny, there should be some dates here where it's start date and due date, and that he will sign to say that he accepts that, and then it will go into his next folder along. Let me bring that back up. Where are we? There we go. Brilliant. That was a bit more difficult than it should have been. So it will go into here. It will just move from one folder to the other. So here we can see all the different tasks that this individual is working on at the moment. And I know that he's working on it because on the far right it says action required by learner all the way through. If there was some work that was completed by the individual and uploaded, it would still be in this section, except the action required would be tutor or VSC for vocational skills coach. So that's how we know where they are. And obviously we can have a look at the dates the work was set on the far left against the work that should have been completed and in that time scale. So you can see here the types of things that they're working on, how bogged down they might be in work as well, how many assignments they've got still left to do, and some of those might be very small tasks. They've simply got to upload a quick statement or something very small, and others might be more involved. So it's worth having a conversation with your learner, with your apprentice, to see what they feel is going on, and if you've got any of those concerns, obviously you can contact us and speak to the tutor. So going back to Danny's homepage, we've also got other tasks and other things in here. Probably another section on this homepage for you to look out for is this journal page. So this is essentially a folder where we can put all of the other additional things that we might want to. At the moment, because Danny's not on an apprenticeship, he's not a learner, there isn't anything in it. But if we click into it, I can put things in there, the learner can put things in there, and the line manager can put things into there. So what might you add to it? There might be a document that is about pipetting skills from the laboratory that you would want them to read, that you want to put up there. Or it might be that the learner has a certificate of competence for their initial fire and fire safety training they had through their induction. If they have an output for that, a certificate, it can go up onto here. So as they progress on their journey, their behaviour logs will go up here. Evidence for their behaviour logs for those 7 different areas will also be put up onto here. Any competence certificates they get can also be put up into here, and then anything else that I might want to do with that learner can be put up into it as well. We might have information in there like a CV. We might put extra work for them, or certainly plans if they're falling behind, into there so everyone can see them. So it might be just worth occasionally looking and looking into their journal and just having a see what's there. So that's it. If you've got multiple learners, you should be able to see them on the drop down. So you should be able to go to more than one learner if you've got that responsibility. So I know Janet here on the screen in front of me, Janet Goble's got 4 learners, and she can see, or should be able to see, all 4 from that one screen and just toggle between one and the other. Now the main thing that I wanted you to see and to talk about in here was what a review looks like. So we've started trying to do reviews every month, not necessarily because we expect managers to go in every single month and review them and put their comments to them, but it gives us a really good review of their journey. So if we look back over 4 or 5 months, we can see how well they're progressing. Some months they might progress quite well and upload lots of information or evidence. Other months it might be quite slow, and we can start to see how their journey's looking and get their own thoughts and their own opinions. And then every so often we will absolutely require you to put some comments in and have a look at the progress of your staff member. So from my perspective, from my point of view here as a line manager, I can go into this review button. So if you didn't see that, I'm just clicking on reviews and progress reviews here, and I can see that there's one that's open here that I might need to sign. So if I scroll down to the bottom, I can see that there is some information here from feedback and comments from the tutor. Unfortunately, I'm the tutor, I'm the learner, I'm the manager in this situation. So, but essentially you can put your comments in there. The individual above will be adding information as they go. We've just put some rubbish in there. We can add attachments. So the attachments you might see might be safeguarding presentations that we've delivered in that month, or those 3 months, depending on how we work it. Additional information that we want you to know that we've talked to them about, but also for the learner to see that they've had an opportunity to have a copy of that. And then above you can start to see their progress. Now obviously this is a dummy account, so we've got 0 progress, which is unfortunate because it's me not doing very well. This is an individual that's on a laboratory technician standard. We've got these ones at the top saying core requirements, skills, knowledge, behaviour, specialisms, the lab tech, all of that. And we would expect these percentages obviously to be green, that they have gone up since the last time. Occasionally, one of those percentages might be red, and it might have gone down between now and the last the last review. And that would be because although I will sign off evidence for my learner and it will increase the percentage, if after a review has been done, it is internally quality assessed and the assessor thinks actually we need to improve that, it will be removed until that changes have been made, the improvements have been made, and then it will be re-uploaded. So occasionally you might see a red percentage where it's gone down rather than up. But overall you should be able to see what they've worked on in the last 4 weeks or the last 3 months. Then with their qualification, their technical certificate, whether it's a BTEC level 3 or level 5, you should be able to see as they complete units that this unmarked will change to pass, merit or distinction depending on how well they've gone through that particular unit. If you wanted to have a look at what that is, if you click on it, it will tell you the information about that unit. So in this case, the unit that I've clicked on is scientific investigations, and it will tell you the assessment criteria, assessment and grading criteria for that unit for your member of staff. So we can just navigate back to the page. So we should have an overall percentage, and we should have in here a hyperlink that you can click on to actually see the evidence that they've uploaded for you or for us. So if they've done a report on titration or spectroscopic method, you can actually click on it and see what they've written about. How accurate do you think it is? How, all of those kinds of things, but really to give you an insight into what they're learning. And hopefully at times you'll see there is a link between what's there and what they're doing in the workplace. Of course, that's not always going to be the case, but whether it's evidence of competence, behaviors, or if it's academic progress and assignments for their qualification, you should be able to see all of the ones since the last review in that section that you can just go through and have a look at. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel off that and go back to this person's homepage. Again, we can have a look at, there's multiple elements here that this individual is studying. Again, it's a dummy one, there's 0 next to it, it should be 77. If I wanted to go in and have a look, I can click on these percentages, and then I can see there would normally be a green bar that tells me from 0 to 100% how far they are with each unit. I can click on that. I can then should be able to see the attachments, the evidence that's there. So I would definitely advise, once you are set up and you know that you've gone through and confirmed your email account, that you have a look at the learner portfolio. Have a click around on the different obviously buttons or hyperlinks that are there, just to familiarize yourself with the layout of the OneFile portfolio, and by all means ask your learner to walk you through it. After a few weeks they get quite proficient in, and they know what they're looking for and what they're looking at. So if you do have problems, they should be able to help you and point out. And it's always good that they know that you're interested, that you're looking, that you know where they are in terms of progression, if they're ahead, if they're slightly behind, if they're on track. And that's a really good way for them to know that they should be motivated and obviously submit things on time. So overall, what I really wanted to do was to show you what this system looks like, that it's fairly straightforward, but only really once you've had a play around with it, and it will take just a little bit of time. We will certainly be emailing you with those reviews into your inbox account, but it will come from OneFile, the email itself, with a little click link. You can go straight to where you should be on OneFile, but that will happen every 3 months, so a quarterly review. Those are the ones that we absolutely must have your comments on. How well do you think the individual's doing? How is the program working for you? And those kinds of things. It doesn't have to be a huge time-consuming process for you, but it's really important that we get your understanding of the progression of your staff on the program that they're on overall. So if you're finding that that's difficult, by all means email me, but always as well ask the learners to help you to navigate through the system. So I know that there's a few people that might be emailing me about making sure that I have got access. I can certainly do that. If you email me, we'll make sure that happens. There's a couple of minutes left. So I wanted to just throw open a question and answer session. If anybody's got any questions about what I've gone through that I can maybe answer for you now. Any questions?
Hi Simon, it's Janet.
Hi Janet, how are you?
I was just wondering, I'm fine, thank you very much. I was just wondering whether you could demonstrate how to make some comments and verify a student.
So in terms of making comments, is that on a review?
On a review, yes. Say if you're doing a monthly review.
Okay. Yeah. So let's have a look. So right. So you should see a screen similar to this when you have your learners. Obviously, some of the iconography there won't be right. The tick won't be right, but you should have a photograph of your learner in there. We always try and get them to do that. On their home screen, under the percentage buttons here, information and options, this progress review button on the right-hand side. Yeah. This is on the work in progress, the work that's been set, but on the far right, if we click there as a manager, it will take you to the reviews page. And although it doesn't quite fit on the page for some reason, if you click on open on the far right, it will open their review. You can then see and review all the different components of it. We ask questions about what they've been working on, so that should be filled out. So the process is my staff set the review. They send that once they've put their own comments into the learner. The learner then has to fill out all of these fields, so you're not expected to do that. Your job is to review and comment only. So you can go through all the way through that. You'll be able to see the tutor's comments, which will be more than just please complete this monthly review for me. You can see the learner comments. I can't vouch for how in-depth that will be. It varies greatly, but we always try and get them to put something in there that really reflects their time over the last few weeks. And then here you get your opportunity to put feedback in. So underneath that. So you'll be the final one, so you'll get to see everybody's comments as manager.
And am I commenting just on the academic work that they've submitted? So are you expecting me to read through everything they've done?
No, I'm not. So sorry. Yeah. So to be clear, I'm expecting your comments to say to the learner how well they've been progressing in the labs with you in their day-to-day job, because that's a really important element, clearly, the 4 days a week of what they're doing. How well are they progressing? And certainly with behaviours, which sits with managers, if you've seen them communicating really effectively, it might be nice to just say that. Or if you've said, well, you've done really well here, but also don't forget to do A, B, or C. Then that's great. It could be that the learner hasn't submitted very much work this month, then you might want to say, well, maybe I hope that next month when we review this there is more work. I can see percentage isn't as up to where we'd like it, and obviously it's about recording that, not having a conversation through it. So although we record those comments, I'd still like you obviously to speak to the individual based on what you've seen and not just rely solely on typing something out. I'm sure you'd all want to speak to them face to face, but it's that I no way do I expect you to go through their academic qualifications or submissions, the assignments, and review them. That was really just out of interest, if you just what they're doing at the moment, just so you feel part of their journey. But that's absolutely fine. It will have been marked, it will have been reviewed with the learner and the tutor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, pleasure.
Simon?
Yeah.
It's Pat. Can I just ask, do the monthly comments go in the same place?
They do. So what we were thinking of doing is and then I'll take your all of your kind of comments with this, and was we don't want to overburden you with all these monthly reviews, but we want you to have access to them if you want to. So what we were going to try to do is probably set up the review so every single month when there's a review, whether it's a larger quarterly version of that review or a smaller one, that you have the opportunity to put comments in if you want to, but we'll only really be chasing you for the quarterly version. That's the one that's really important for us that gets done. But you can put comments all the way through. That would be brilliant.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, if there are questions that people think of after obviously this, or when you're looking at it now and thinking, oh gosh, I don't know what that was about, then by all means use that email address that's on the screen there, or you might not be able to see it. It's in the comments box in the conversation history, and just let me know, and I'll do my best either to pass it on to a colleague or I'll answer it myself, and we'll get you set up and happy with the system, and it will give you a full review of or sight of everything they're doing, because I know quite often it's the great unknown. They go off for a day or they go online and you don't really know, and hopefully this process will allow you to be a part of that, with no nasty surprises coming later on out of the blue. Okay, so any other questions before I wrap it up? Okay, great. I'm going to stop the recording.